So Kristina, let's pretend that we haven't worked together for years. So for the purposes of this audience, why don't you tell us your name and your job title?
Sure. So my name is Kristina Balaam, and my job title is technically Staff Security Intelligence Engineer, which is a fancy way of saying that I'm on our threat intelligence team doing malware research.
Oh, okay. So the title that she just gave you, she's being very shy. She's one of the head honchos and top researchers in the company. So she won't say that, but I can shamelessly plug that. So tell me about what your job involves.
Sure. So on our threat intelligence team, our kind of directive is focused on tracking what are called advanced persistent threats. So these are some of the more sophisticated threats that tend to be tied to cyber criminal organizations or nation state actors that have persisted for, sometimes years at a time. And our team looks for these sorts of threats, especially in the context of mobile security, and we track them. We try and understand what these campaigns are trying to accomplish, who they're trying to conduct surveillance on, and then we write up reports both publicly and for our customers to let them know about these threats, the fact that they exist.
It feels like a whack-a-mole game, like it's a constant digging, right, to find the information. So if we drill down a little bit deeper, tell me about what a typical day is like. What did you do last Thursday?
Sure. So last Thursday, I was threat hunting, and threat hunting typically involves looking through Lookout's massive data set for interesting indicators that something might be malicious. So this might be, for example, Lookout does a lot of research on Uyghur targeting surveillance campaigns. So these could be things like apps that are specifically targeting people that speak Uyghur, that would be part of different ethnic minority groups that would be targeted by a particular threat actor that we care about, and looking at the apps that come back from these search queries and deciding, okay, is this malicious? Is this part of a bigger campaign? What can we do with this information? So that's what last Thursday looked like. It was looking for a lot of those sorts of indicators within Lookout, as well as through some external repositories, and like even on Twitter and stuff. Sometimes you'll have people sharing tweets that are like, hey, download this super secure version of Telegram and it'll be way safer, and it's malware.
All of us are sitting here like, that is so cool, the work that you do. It just sounds like, I'm just going to fight, bad actors and that for nation states that are being targeted. I mean, honestly, so what is the hardest part about the work that you do?
For me, by far the hardest part is just not always getting all the answers. So sometimes you could be spending like literal days on a particular problem and not necessarily find an answer about who is being targeted by a campaign or why they're doing this campaign, or you're tracking infrastructure. So let's say you have a surveillance application on a phone and it's exfiltrating content like your photos and your text messages to some third-party server that's being controlled by some bad guy. Not being able to actually look at that server, you can't like log in with passwords and stuff. That's very illegal. So sometimes threat actors leave stuff wide open. Sometimes they don't. And so not being able to get all the pieces of the puzzle to say, hey, this is the full story, go forth and protect yourself, can be really frustrating.
Yeah. Tell me about the most enjoying part. Like, tell me about a recent win that you had that perhaps the rest of the company doesn't know about. Don't share any secret sauce, but tell me about what's really enjoyable for you.
So I actually can't talk about this because
I love it.
It's not public.
She's the coolest job. She can't talk about it. It's so cool.
But it was a situation where I found other pieces to the puzzle and was able to like present a full picture to a story that we might not have had in previous investigations. And for me, that felt like a big win because it was a development in my threat hunting capabilities. It was learning about new technology and like ways of kind of tracking threat actors that I hadn't really experienced before. And it felt really good because it was a campaign I cared about, and we were able to like share information that would help people better secure whoever was being targeted. So
that's incredible.
That felt like a big win.
No, that's incredible, right? Last Thursday, I probably made pancakes, and you were out there helping people in the most significant way. And I know you're being very thoughtful about how you're explaining it, but putting together those pieces of the puzzle impacts millions of people. So thank you for being so humble, but the work you do is so critical. So can we back up a little bit, and can you tell me about how you got started, like undergrad?
Sure.
How did you end up where you are today?
Yeah, so I've always loved computers. I started learning to program when I was like 8 or 9, but at that point, like Y2K, nobody said computer science was a thing you could do. Like I had one advisor be like, don't go into computer science. It's like a glorified math degree. You'll never do anything that you'll make money at. So I was like, oh, I don't really know where to go. So I also really loved political science and writing. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll become a lawyer and study international law and like work with the UN or something. And so I ended up going to university for that. Into my second year when I took a computer science class as an elective and realized, oh, wait, no, I can actually build programs and work with computers in a way that's practical and useful. And so I transitioned from there. But it wasn't until after I graduated and was working as a software engineer, kind of more of a general software engineer for a while, that I came to a day of security that was at the Lookout Toronto office in 2018.
Stop it.
Yes.
Security.
I know.
Go on.
And I met some of our amazing researchers who were talking about campaigns, like, you know, what our team currently does and everything that was involved in it. And I realized, oh, okay, so I had been working in application security at that point in mobile, but not in the malware space. And so hearing that I could do malware research tied to geopolitical issues and like merging these two areas that I was always really passionate about, computers with geopolitics, was just really, really exciting. So yeah, after that, I kind of got recruited, and 4 years later-ish, here I am.
I mean, come on, computers with geopolitics. Hello. The fact that your vernacular uses the word geopolitics is so cool. Once again, it's not pancakes, which is really cool. So I've been chatting with folks all morning about folks that want to break into the area of cybersecurity, folks that perhaps went through a boot camp, or an undergrad, or individuals that might be developers, were pretty advanced in their career, and they want to make the pivot. Let's start out with the folks that are just coming out of a boot camp or out of school, and they just don't know where to start, and everything looks really ominous. What advice would you have for them?
So my advice there is kind of twofold. So the first thing is to not hold yourself back from applying for positions because you don't meet like 10 out of 10 of the listed criteria on the listing. There's been some like studies and stuff that show that people who identify as women tend to do that more than, you know, people who identify as men. So that's just like, don't limit yourself necessarily. You bring something to the table that other people likely don't bring. And so that's just one thing to keep in mind. The second thing that I found really helpful for me, even transitioning from like a security engineer into a cybersecurity role, and I think this is applicable to anybody just interested in cybersecurity, is having like kind of a portfolio of sorts. So I'm not saying you have to spend like every waking moment doing this, because I don't think that's healthy. But like if you're really passionate about something, like you're really passionate about mobile research, it could be walking through the like mobile research reverse engineering component of something like a capture the flag activity. And even if, you know, you're not winning or you're not like on a team, just like documenting the steps and like the thoughts you had and the approach you took to solving that problem and something that other people can read, whether it's like a blog or, you know, even just like a Word doc or something like that. I've been involved with hiring at different companies, and we've always really loved seeing people who could convey their approach to a problem and that they were really excited about that problem and solving it in a way that we could kind of see them work through the process. So
that's really interesting. So what you're talking about is start to learn, start to uncover, be really curious, and talk about it, and talk about how you got there. And it's not as critical that you've had 15 years of experience in the space, but that you took the initiative to learn about something and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how about networking? What has been your most effective advice on networking? Because even though you went to the Day of Security event in Toronto, that takes courage, right? It's hard to go into a
Yeah,
room where you don't know anyone face to face. So tell me a little bit about what your secret sauce is in networking.
sure. Yeah, it's been tough because like, COVID, it's not
Yeah.
always the same experience when you can't necessarily get into a room with people all the time. But events like this, any event that you can get to, whether it's virtual or in person, I think it's really worth reaching out to people that are giving talks that resonate with you, and even just like asking for advice or kind of initiating some kind of relationship. It feels really intimidating. Like,
Yeah.
quite frankly, I'm a very introverted person. I'm pretty shy. And so going into a conference, especially like by myself and reaching out to somebody or stopping after talking, being like, hey, I really like that. Can I pick your brain about this issue? Took a lot of work. But those relationships led to other opportunities to go to, other conferences. I ended up at Black Hoodie because of the connections I made at another conference. And like all of these things kind of add up, and they help you find footing in an industry that can kind of feel really isolating, especially if you're, in a room with people who don't really look like you.
Yeah. And it's amazing, Kristina, and this is going to be a direct plug because I mean it. It is incredible how many women we have in your space. I mean, it is, at one point it was, oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is a trend. And now it's our secret powers. I mean, your group is primarily women. What do you attribute that to? Why do you think it's an area that so many women like to get into and are very good at?
Oh, that's a great question. I feel like it's these different perspectives that help kind of, formulate a story around, in my case, it's like different campaigns and stuff. But I feel like, we tend to kind of bring a different perspective or a different approach to handling threat actors, or maybe looking at the problem or looking at places they might be hiding in ways that differ from predominantly male groups who have maybe been looking at things from a very similar perspective. I think that's a huge contributing factor. At Lookout, I think we're really lucky in that we have an organization that just fosters women's development as well. Like that I think is really important in attracting talent and people from diverse backgrounds. So for us here, I think that's been hugely influential and helpful as well.
Yeah. People are putting in the Slack channel, the chat channel, and texting me, "You're our hero." So, Kristina, thank you so much for taking time today. We really enjoy it. And if those of you would like to reach out to Kristina, I'm sure she would be happy to connect. You can find her on LinkedIn. And Kristina, thank you again.
Thanks so much. It's great talking to you. See you later. Bye, everyone. Thank you.